It is a Sunday. I'm getting ready to go to church. I'm ironing, and all of a sudden I feel a very heavy vibration under my feet. So I quickly run out of the room and I say, "Hey, earthquake." But later, I got to hear that there was an earth tremor in Accra, which is in Ghana, and lots of places within the Accra region experienced it. And so in this video, the question is Ghana ready for an earthquake? Now, since this channel is mainly focused on building and construction, we are not going to look at it from multiple perspectives, as in government, as in health and safety, as in emergency roads and all these things. I'm just going to look at it from an infrastructure perspective coming up next. Now, before we continue, I have a quick question for you. Do you remember the last major earthquake that Ghana has experienced? Do you know? Comment below and we'll answer it at the end of the video. But for me, I've experienced 4 major earth movements in my lifetime in Ghana. Now, I call it earth movements because some are earth tremors and some are earthquakes. Now, we're not going to look at the definition of earth tremors and earthquakes, but you're seeing it on your screens right now. So the very first earth movement that I experienced was in the year 1996. I remember it was a holiday. They were showing a Ghanaian movie and all of a sudden the windows, the doors, everywhere was just rattling. And the next one I experienced was in the year 2020 during the COVID. There were multiple tremors. They were very low, very light, but it comes once, then it comes again, then it comes after some time. And we all had to run outside. And when we went outside, we realized the whole neighborhood was outside as well. Then the third one I experienced was the same year, 2023. Few months back, I was at work and then I had a very strong boom come and pass, like 1 second. It just passed, boom. And the building is a huge multi-complex story building. Sitting on the 4th floor, for me to feel that impact, I knew, hey, something serious is happening. And we quickly went to the assembly point and there were thousands of people who were gathered there. And then the same year, few months later, we experienced another earth tremor. So if you are to plot a graph of the frequency over time, you would notice that 1996, then you move to 2020, and then you move to 2023 2 times. You can see that it's beginning to increase in frequency. And that's why we should all be concerned, especially when it comes to the structures that we put in place. You may be wondering, okay, my house is very well built, but how about the schools your children attend? How about the hospital you may want to visit if an earthquake happens and you are hurt? How about the mosques and churches that you attend? Or how about where you work, where you spend most of your day at? And so we need to look at, is Ghana ready for an earthquake in terms of infrastructure, in terms of structural integrity, in terms of how we are putting up our buildings? And so let's talk about, first of all, the materials and ratios that people are using for their building projects coming up. So recently, somebody joined my TikTok live that we do every Saturday. The person was really panicking. They kept requesting to join the live because they said they had a question they wanted me to address urgently. Now, during the TikTok lives, we address everybody's comments, Q&As that come. But if you want dedicated consultation, then click on the link in our description and then also about us page on our YouTube and book a consultation session so that we can answer all your questions. So back to the TikTok live. This guy joined and he was panicking. He says he watched my video about building a story building versus building a normal house, and while I was telling people not to put up story buildings. And he said he was very worried because in my video about not putting up story buildings, I said people are even building story buildings with 10mm iron rods. And when he checked what his masons had given him for iron rods, they were using 10mm, and he had built 2-story buildings. So 1 floor, in addition to the ground floor, with 10mm iron rods. Like, I was so shocked. I was speechless. Everybody on the live was just saying, hey, how is this possible? I didn't want the guy to feel too bad. There were a lot of experts, engineers, consultants, etc. on the live session. He came to his rescue and said, they can volunteer to come and do a structural integrity test on his project for him. But that leads us to the point that I'm driving at, that many people are building without consulting experts. And like I've said in past videos, most of us are going to build just 1 house in our lifetime, if we are lucky. Some even never build houses during their lifetimes. And so if you are going to build a house in your lifetime, then it's considered as a once in a lifetime event. And if you're going to do something that's a once in a lifetime event, which is so expensive because building in Ghana is super expensive, then you need to make sure that you are doing it and doing it right. You are getting the needed expertise to come and look at your building projects, because we said you are not going to buy expensive supercars and have your normal roadside mechanics to look at it. And in the same way, any building you are putting up, you need to make sure you are getting professional architects, you are getting professional masons, you are getting people to do your soil sample test, and all these things that we spoke about in a video that we are going to recommend at the end of this video. So make sure to watch till the end of the video. Now also, it begs the question, do people really go for building permits when they are building? Recently, we saw a structure which collapsed. There was no earthquake, nothing. It collapsed. It was a story building. You are seeing it on your screens right now. It collapsed. It just disappeared. And that tells me that this person probably didn't go to get a building permit, because when you are doing a building permit, they are going to do soil sample tests. They are going to look at the distance between your columns and all that. And so you can't just say you put up the structure and built it and it collapsed. Then you can even go and sue the people who gave you the building permit because they didn't do their work properly. But I've had so many people who contact us and say, I have a plot of land, I want you guys to start building for us. And we ask them, do you have a building permit? And they say no. In fact, one guy reached out to us, I think on TikTok or Instagram, and says they have some land at Kaswa and they want us to build for us. I asked, does he have the title to the land? He said no. Does he have a building permit? He says no, but we can continue. And I told him, no, chairman, we don't work like that. You can't do that. One, we need the land title certificate to ensure that when we are working, no legal issues, no litigation issues comes to affect the rate and progress of work. And two, we need building permits because we don't want to be building anything that will collapse. And we also don't want to be working and the municipal assembly people will come and seize the tools of our staff and arrest the people who are working for us. And so building permits is really important, especially if you are building your house at Kaswa. I mean, you people know my history with Kaswa. It's not that I have anything against that place, but again, when you look at the earthquake-prone areas in Accra, you look at the map, which you are currently seeing on your screen, you know that the Wager, Malam, Kaswa areas are some of the epicenters. What that means is that if an earthquake occurs, like the one that occurred on the 12th of November, Sunday, it occurred within Wager, Malam, and Kaswa areas for seconds. People reported like 10 to 15 seconds. For me, living far away, like where I live is about 16 kilometers from those Wager Malam areas, I experienced it for just 1 second. People who live farther away might have experienced for a microsecond, but people in Kaswa were experiencing it. And what they've been complaining about is that they keep getting it regularly. Like a year, they can get multiple earth tremors, whilst the rest of us who live in Accra will not even experience it at all. So if you're going to build somewhere in Kaswa, Wager, Malam, it's not like if you're building away from those areas, you can decide to take caution to the wind. You need to make sure that you have your building permit. You need to make sure the soil sample test has been done. You need to make sure that the area you're going to build will be able to withstand earthquakes. And that is another challenge we have as a nation. I don't see any building code that is designed against earthquakes. Now, if you look at the kind of earthquake that occurred in places like Turkey, Egypt, other places, that almost wiped out the entire town. You look at the magnitude of the earthquake, even when you watch the videos, you can see hills moving, you can see vibrations. So you can't take it for granted that Ghana, when we build our houses, people are using 10 millimeters iron rods, people are using all manner of cheap cement and cheap materials. God should just have mercy upon us. Are we ready as a country for earthquakes? I don't think so. So City FM interviewed some people who live within the Wager, Malam, Kaswa areas and asked them about their thoughts. And most of the people say they would want to relocate if they have the opportunity, because the kind of earth tremors they've been experiencing over there is just too much.
Quick fault lines. The latest earth tremor incident has struck fear in the hearts of residents, with some indicating their readiness to relocate over concerns of a looming earthquake.
We are all in line. We are on the earthquake fault zone. So probably we are making plans to relocate one day from this place.
I was in my room, dressing up for church. I was a bit scared because it was spontaneous. Nobody knew this was going to happen. So Makati is just here, it's a hill, so anything that comes affects us because we are beneath it. This one wasn't too, it doesn't cause any harm, but who knows what might happen next. It might be a bit more dangerous than this one, so it's advisable to move out.
But we all know that relocating is not that easy. Look at what has happened to the people who lived close to the Akosombo Dam when the dam gates were opened because the dam was about to overflow and break. These people's lives have been affected. Now we are moving into months, so and the people's livelihoods have been affected. They've not been able to go back to their homes. They are living in like temporary makeshift camps and all these things. The F tremor here was 3 point something. And the major one we've had, which I asked you of at the start of this video, was about 6 point something. And that one caused so much demolition. And that was in about 1938. If the places that are experiencing about 8, 9, 30 and things, 12, 10 magnitude, if those kind of earthquakes occur, I'm not sure our roads will even survive. I'm not sure the hospitals that are even supposed to take care of people will survive. We need to pray that God has mercy upon us and delivers us, because I am not sure that Ghana is prepared for any kind of earthquake. Looking at the way people put up structures, even structures that are for public consumption, malls and retail centers. We heard about a retail center which collapsed in Ghana some years back, killed people. Rest in peace to those innocent souls and condolences to their families. But then it gives us a grim picture of where we are. If this building you are looking at collapsed without an earthquake, just after some minor rains, then what is going to happen when we have a very huge earthquake? This is food for thought. I want to leave with you. Comment below and let me know your thoughts as well. Again, if you are planning to move from a place which is earthquake prone, you need to consider the cost of rent. You need to consider the cost of putting up another structure. And that's why you need to make sure that as you are building, if you haven't started yet, make sure to invest in experts. Thanks, Bibre.